right. So today I'd like to just begin with the agenda. As you know, there's two presenters. It's myself and Shawn. I'm going to be taking you through the tool libraries and how to create a new tool library, how to navigate the web to obtain the 3D models for the tools, and lastly, how to define a 3D finishing tool. Shawn will be taking you through the usual demonstration of the cutting profile in Mastercam, and he will define our 3D mold tool. And then lastly, he'll demonstrate what the tool manager application is in Mastercam, which is a very rare thing people may not know about, but it's been in Mastercam for a long time. All right, without further ado, let me share my Mastercam screen. Okay, I hope all of you can see this. If you can't, please just mention it in the chat and I will get to it. All right, you can see that I have a blank Mastercam screen here. This is in Mastercam 2023, and I'd like to just take you through the tool manager. So to do that, we go to Machine, Lathe, and choose the machine firstly. Okay, I'm sorry guys, just want to check something. Can you guys hear me? If you can just pop it in the chat there. I see Angelo has a sound issue. Okay, you guys can hear me. All right, thank you. Let me continue. Okay, so there's the blank Mastercam screen. I've just went to the machine tab and selected my lathe default machine, and then it pops up in the toolpaths manager here. Okay, and then if I want to go now and access the tool manager, just go to turning tab and then lathe tool manager. This is what I'm going to explain today, is that in the tool manager, you have various different icons and two sections that you work with. Okay, the first thing I need to mention is that you can have specific tool managing groups for each machine. So if I go ahead and just on the green check there, create another machine group. There's machine group 1 and machine group 2. I'm going to cancel there. Go back to my tool manager. You'll see that you have the option to switch between the two machine groups, which would have specific tooling to each. Okay, the next thing is that I'll demonstrate the green tick application later on and show you when that pops into your window. You can also switch your view to view your part tools within your file at the moment, or that's your part tools there, and then there's your library tools. But it's empty right now, so I'll demonstrate that soon. I'm just going to go back to both. Okay. At the bottom, you have your default Mastercam library, Lathe MM. Okay, this is where it's your master copy of your tool database. This stores your tool database. Okay, so to actually go and show you where the tools are, I'm going to go to public documents, shared Mastercam, Lathe tools, and then go to Lathe MM. And that is Mastercam's default lathe library. There's all my tools in my tool library. I can also transfer them to the part file that I'm working with at the moment, simply by just clicking on the tool and dragging it to the part. Or I can just click on a tool and use the up arrow to copy the selected part to the part file. All right. So you also have something called filters. You have a tool filter, an insert filter, and a holder filter. If you go to your tool filter, you have various tapping. You have a tap tool, you have a custom tool. You can choose what you want to filter to. I'm going to filter to a threading tool in my default library and a green check. And there's all my threading tools. Okay. If I want a threading tool, just click on it, copy to the top of, that's my part file. I probably would know beforehand what tools I'm going to use to actually machine the job. So preparing your tool manager in advance is a good option. Some people just machine off the bat and then later on add the tools, but you can do it beforehand. And then you have an insert filter as well. If you've properly defined your inserts within your tool library, then you can filter according to the shape, type, cutting side, threading, or the grooving and parting parameters. Okay, the holder filter is also the same. You can filter according to your shank shape. Okay, I'm just going to put this filter off. And next, I'd like to just open up a file that I've prepared beforehand for this demonstration to show you how the tool library operates. Okay, so here's my part in Mastercam. It's a lathe part. I have 4 tool parts that I've created. I've got different tools in them as well, just that the facing and the rough have the same tool. Okay, it's the OD roughing tool. I go to my lathe tool manager and I see, okay, here's Mastercam's default tool library. If I want to go ahead and create a new library, new tool library, there's my icon. So I'm going to click on that and I'm going to save it somewhere I can have quick access to. You can do the same. So I'm just going to save it to my webinar tools. I'm going to click and delete that webinar lathe tools and put in the name there and save. Yes, I want to replace it, and now it's blank. So my library is a new, fresh library that I can create tools in now. These tools stayed in the part because they are used in the operations. So if I want to transfer those parts to my tool library now, the new tool library, I can just make a window over them, highlight them, and drag them to the bottom. Those tools are now going to stay in my tool library, and I can choose them whenever I feel like using them. So the next thing that I'd like to show you guys is creating a 3D tool for lathe. So to create a 3D tool, I'm going to right click in the bottom default manager here and select create 3D tool. And I know that I'm going to be creating an external finish tool, okay, with a 0.8 radius. Okay, I'm just going to copy that name so that I can use it in the future. And now the important part is, where do you find these 3D tools on the internet and how do you download them? Okay, so I'm going to switch over quickly to my browser. And I'm going to show you guys exactly where I grab these 3D tools from. First up is ISCA's website. Okay, ISCA has a very comprehensive website. You can just go over to the ISO turning application and choose your tool accordingly. I can see a render of my tool at the bottom here. It's interactive, so I can just play around and see if this is the correct tool. And you have a light and a detailed view as well. Okay, the detailed view is a little bit more heavy on graphics, but it's the same thing. Okay, so we can also download the tool. If I click download here, then it will bring up a window for me to save the part as a step file. Okay, so that's exactly where I got the tool that we are going to use today. I'm just going to cancel that. Next up is Taggytech's website. They have a very broad variety of components, holders, and inserts that you can choose from. You can go over and see that. Lastly, we have Sandvik, they have an online tool assembler. So this is also useful because sometimes you have different components that don't have generic holders. So if I go ahead now and just click on the plus button, I get a chance to choose the tool that I want to use. I've already chose the insert. Okay, so I'm just going to head on here to Correturn, apply. I'm just going to bring in this tool that I see here, any tool that I see there. Okay, this is actually a boring bar. And at the bottom, as I scroll down, I can see a 3D render of the tool. You can also just download that as a step file. Okay, something exciting to mention is that Sandvik and Mastercam have partnered and now they are creating software to actually run their 3D tools and toolpaths within Mastercam. So that's coming up really soon, and it's very exciting because Mastercam had their 40th anniversary this month, and they have explained how they are going to partner with Mastercam. So yeah, looking forward to that, and I hope you guys are excited for that as well. All right, so that's a little bit on the tooling side and where to obtain it. Now I'm going to go to Mastercam. Let's create that 3D tool for finishing. Okay, I'm going to click next here. It's a general turning tool, not a boring, but you have different options here. Go to next. And now I'm going to create a tool assembly. Okay, so I'm going to define the component. Right click define. I'm going to paste my name here and open up that step file that I downloaded. It's under my webinar files, and there it is. Mastercam pulls in the file all well, and it looks properly defined. Okay, so I'm going to choose my holder and selection. So that is a general turning tool. I'm just going to choose my thickness here on the side and the width of the holder. Let's go to next. Side plane connection is going to be the top face, and enter. So you see how the tool is sitting right now in the graphics window, and that's the holder actually. And then you go next, green check. Okay, let's define the insert for this tool. Define an insert and copy paste the name. Open that exact same step file. And now you're going to actually choose the insert instead. Okay, and there you see your insert is inputted correctly into and mated correctly to the holder. Okay, it is a general turning tool. It's a left-hand tool. Next, we need to define the corner radius. So I'm going to select that on the insert itself, and it's going to be that face. Okay, next. So we go to cutting plane. Your cutting plane sits parallel to your flat plane of your insert. So we choose that. And if I zoom in closer, I can see that the corner radius is not in the correct offset position. So let me go and make sure it's sitting at the proper position. All right. And if you view now, you see it's sitting at the proper position and you've offset it correctly. Let's go to next. Boundary we don't need. Let's go to machine orientation. So I'm going to go to top view. And when I do that, I see the tool is facing the wrong way. I want to make sure that the spindle rotation is correct. So I'm going to go to counterclockwise because this is a left spindle leg. Okay, next is our cutter compensation. So as we see, as it's brought up, the plunge and the cutter are in the wrong direction. I'll go to my quadrants, I select quadrant 1. I want to plunge this way and cut that way. Okay, and let's go and define the actual point and corner it will cut by clicking on the select tool center arc. And if we view closely, we see it's set up correctly. All right, and I'm just going to go select my clearance angle on the top face and put in the height for clearance. Let's call it 7. And for your end clearance angle, it's that line. Your width, 5 would probably be enough. Yes, it would be. Right, next. And then we continue in green check. And there's our tool set up correctly for cutting on our lathe. And then we green check. Mastercam will tell you library updated successfully. So you say OK. And there you see your tool, your 3D tool in your library that you've created, your custom library. And now I want to use that in my file. So I'm going to click on it and drag it to the top in my part file. So earlier on, I mentioned that I'm going to show you the green ticks. As you can see, the green tick here is showing that it's being used in an operation. And obviously, we see for the finishing tool, it's not being used, the 3D tool itself. So I'm gonna green check here, okay? And head over to my finishing parameters for my finished tool path. Choose the correct 3D tool and green check. Okay, now you see if you go to the lathe tool manager, you'll see a green tick there and it came off the other 2D finishing tool. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and sort the threading tool out as well and choose the correct one. And that's the one we want, green check. Okay, lastly, let's go and verify and see exactly what's being done. So if I switch over to the side here, my stop conditions are collision and operation change, verify, and the color loop is on. Okay, let's play. Sorry, just give me 1 second. I just need to verify the whole operation. All right, there we go. That's your facing, that's your roughing, and then this is your finishing with your 3D tool, and here's your threading. Perfect. Okay, that's all done and all good. Lastly, I just want to mention that if you want to learn about the 3D tooling and also get more advanced at defining your 3D tools, it's offered in MECAD's advanced Mastercam training course. All right, I'll just like to thank everyone, and I hope you guys learned something from my portion. Okay, Shawn, you can take over.
All right, let me share my screen. Can you see my screen? All right, I hope everyone can see my screen. To start off with, I'll just be demonstrating a U-drill profile in Mastercam. It is possible to create and define a U-drill in Mastercam. I will not be creating or defining one in this demonstration. I will simply just be showing the tool and its cutting profile. We do create and define a U-drill in the advanced training course. If I go up top to my lathe tool manager, as you can see at the top left, I've got a 38 diameter U-drill. I've already created it and it's in my part folder. I will be using it now just for demonstration. I've just created a normal stock and jaws, nothing fancy. I will be doing a drilling cycle. Drill, I will select the U-drill and I will put it at a depth of -20. If I green tick, there is my U-drill cut. I've got the profile of the U-drill and the correct cut for my U-drill. That was just a little demonstration on the U-drill. I will be moving over to the milling tool manager. It works very similar to the way the lathe tool manager does. There are a few differences though. First, I will load a milling machine. As you can see, I'm currently have a lathe machine open. So my tool manager as a lathe tool manager. So I will be loading machine, a mill default. I've loaded a milling machine. I do not need to create stock or chuck jaws or anything. I will be going straight to the top to tool manager. As you can see, it's the same page as the lathe. If you have a look at the bottom where the library folder is, it's my generic mill library that Mastercam has given me, mill_millimeter. This comes with Mastercam and it's got all the generic tools in. For milling, it works similar to lathe where I've got tools and holders. As you can see in assemblies where it's a tool and a holder together, there is nothing. But if I move to my tools tab, I've got a full list of all the generic tools Mastercam has given me. And if I move to holders, I've also got a full list of generic tools in my holders. These ones come standard when Mastercam is installed. Everyone has access to them. The first thing I'll be doing is creating an assembly. I'll be using a tool from this library and a holder from this library to create an assembly. Next, I will create my own 2D tool and my own holder for an assembly. I'll start by right-clicking in the library folder and say create tool assembly. As you can see on the left, it asks me for a name. I'm simply going to name this Assembly 1. Wants me to add a holder and add a tool. I'll start by adding a holder. I'll right click and I will say import from library. I will click on that. As you can see here, it's asking me which library do you want to import from. This is the generic one I have open. I will be using that one. I'm simply going to select this 20. Green tick. There's my holder. Next, I want to add a tool. So I'll right click and import from library. Once again, it's the milling library. I'm going to choose a 10 diameter drill. That one, green tick. There's my tool with my holder. If I click on the holder, I can adjust the projection length of my tool. I'm going to leave it around there and green tick. There is my first assembly created. Next, I'm going to create a second assembly, but this time I'm going to define the tool and the holder while I do that. I will right click, create tool assembly. It's the same process as before. I will name this assembly 2. Add a holder, I'll right click. Instead of import, I want to define a holder. I will click on define a holder. The window that pops up is how I create and define my holders. This window is standard for milling. As you can see, it's got one section. I want to add another segment. As you can see, I will change the bottom diameter to 10. There's just an edit of my holder. You can edit all holders to the way you would like them. Next, you can name it, and I finish. There's my holder. I'll do the same with a tool. I'll right click, define a tool. This window pops up. It wants me to define a milling tool. I've got 3 sections: hole making, accelerated finishing, and normal milling. I will simply click on a flat end mill. Next, I'm happy with a 10 diameter. I just want to change the cutting length to 40. Changed it to 40. As you can see, I'm happy with that. Next, finish. There's my tool with my holder. Once again, I'm going to adjust the projection, set it around there, and green tick. There is my second tool created. For the third tool assembly I'm going to create, I'm going to use a tool I have, once again, like Sandeen mentioned, downloaded from the internet, from ISCAR, as a milling tool. You download it as a step file. You can store the step file anywhere on your computer, and when you create the tool, you'll bring that step file in. I do the same process. Right click, create tool assembly. I will name this assembly 3. For the holder, I can right click. I can either define or import. For this, I will define. I'll add 2 segments, and I can change the bottom one to 5, the lower diameter. Next, finish. When it comes to the tool, I do right click, define a tool. I can click anywhere on these, preferably whichever tool you have downloaded, click on the same tool. I know I've previously downloaded a bull end mill, so I'm going to select the bull end mill and click next. In this window is where you import the tool you've downloaded. There's a little icon at the top of the window over here, import custom geometry from a tool. I'm going to click on that, and then wherever you've saved your step file, as you can see, mine is over here. I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to say open. As you can see there, it has opened a representation of what I've downloaded. There are 2 things to take note over here. At the bottom, I've got an indication that it says outlined is my Mastercam tool, and the rendered, the image, is my imported tool. When I do a tool path, Mastercam will be taking the Mastercam tool, so the outline, as the tool geometry. If I have a look at this image here, I can see there goes the outline, and there's my rendered tool. Meaning Mastercam has not brought in this tool with the correct radius. I need to edit this. It is very important. If you leave it like this, your visualization or your backplot will not have the same profile of this tool. You need to check when you download the tool and the insert, what radius the insert has. Since I downloaded the tool, I know it's got a radius of 0.4. When I type in this portion over here, 0.4, enter, there we can see my outline has gone proportional to the rendered tool. I'm happy with this. This is what I want to see. Now I know the tool I've imported and Mastercam's representation of this tool are the same. So now I can click finish and there's my tool. Same story with the holder. I will simply drop it down, change my projection length and green tick. There's my third tool. What I've done now is I've created these 3 tools inside Mastercam's generic library. You see the mil_millimeter. I've created these 3 tools in this library. I do not want to do that because now I have edited the generic folder or the default folder Mastercam has given me. I want to put these 3 tools in my own folder. I'm going to highlight them and I'm going to move them up into my machine group. Once they're in my machine group, I can delete them from this library. I don't want them in Mastercam's default library, so I will delete them, yes. Next, I'm going to create my own library for these tools. So I will click on this icon, create a new tool library. As you can see, it's opened up here. It wants a file name at the bottom. I'm going to name it Webinar Mil Tools. I can select where I want to save this tool library. I can save it anywhere on my computer. I can save it inside the Mastercam folders. I can save it inside my personal folders or inside a specific part or job folder. In this case, I'm going to go to desktop, my webinar folder, and I'm going to save it inside my tool libraries over here. And I will say save. Yes. Currently, I've got no tools, assemblies, or holders in this library because I've just created it. But I'm going to take these 3 and I'm going to move them down into my library. Once I've done that, I can delete these 3 from my machine group and I've got these 3 tools in my Webinar Mil Tools library. I can green tick and I can save this, yes. Now those tools have been saved in my own library. There's another process for milling called the Tool Manager. It's the same as this icon, except it's a standalone. To access this tool manager, I need to have Mastercam open. If I don't have Mastercam open, I'm going to close Mastercam. I'm going to go to my search bar at the bottom and I'm going to type in Tool Manager. As you can see, there's the Tool Manager app and I'm going to open it. This comes installed with Mastercam when you initially install it. As you can see here, it's a bit of a different window. I do not need Mastercam open to access this tool manager. At the top, I've got my tools that I can create. And on the left, there's a holder and assembly. First, I'm going to either create a new folder, library, or open an existing one. I'm going to open the one I created inside Mastercam. So I click open and I know it's this one, Webinar Mil Tools. And I'm going to open that one. As you can see on the left here, once it's finished loading, I've got 0 cutting tools, 0 holders, but 3 tool assemblies. This is what I created, it's correct. At the top, I've got these little tabs here. I'm going to double click on tool assemblies. As you can see there, I've got an assemblies tab. I will do the same, double click on holders, and I'll do the same, double click on cutting tools. I've got the 3 tabs at the top. Tools, I've got nothing, holders, nothing, but assemblies, I've got the 3 assemblies I created previously. I want to create now another assembly over here in my library. I can either do it inside Mastercam or I can do it inside this tool manager app. By doing that, I need to go to the top where it says assembly and I can click on assembly. As you can see, it's pasted a new assembly over here, tool number 58. There's nothing in the assembly name, there's nothing in the holder name, and there's nothing in the tool name. I need to, assemble this tool now. So I can go to my tools tab and I first want to load a tool here. So at the top, what kind of tool do I want to load? I'm going to use a ball nose end mill. So I'm going to click on that. As you can see, it's the same page as inside Mastercam to create my tool. I'm going to change my diameter to 8. I'm going to say next and finish. There's my tool. Same with the holders now. In the holders tab, there's nothing. I go to the top over here where it says holder and I click on it. Once again, it's the same window as inside Mastercam. I'm going to add 4 segments and I'm going to adjust them 10, 15, and 5. Click on next and finish, and there's my holder. Now I want to put this tool and this holder together for my assembly over here. As you can see on the bottom left, I've got my assembly tree. Currently, there's nothing in the assembly tree. So I'm going to go to holders, and whichever holder you want to use, you click on it and you drag it into your assembly tree. Once I let go, there's my first holder. For tools, I do the same. I take this tool and I can drag it into my tree. Once I let go, as you can see there, it's created my assembly. If I go to the assemblies tab, there's the tool I've just created. With the tool, with the holder, there is my assemble tool. It's taken the name of the tool and the name of the holder, and it has put it as the assembly name. It's the same interface as inside Mastercam. I just don't need Mastercam open for this. Thank you very much, everyone. This concludes the end of our webinar. I hope you have learned something today. We will be taking some questions now. You're more than welcome to type the questions in the chat and we can answer them as they go. This webinar has been recorded. It will be available to watch again if you would like. Thank you very much for attending.
Okay, I see a question from Jan. Yes, Jan, this can be done for Seco tools as well. I will just show you quickly on my screen. I've headed over to their website quickly. So there is Seco Tools website, okay, for tooling. It's under the turning, the general ISO turning, and then you can choose your different toolings from here. I just chose this tool, and you can go to the full specification here, and on your far right, you'll see a 3D basic icon here. You just click on that icon and download the step file for that tool. I've already downloaded that, so I'm going to show you to you quickly. Just going to choose my lathe machine quick and go to the lathe tool manager. Okay, so I'm going to right click in the assembly folder here and say create 3D tool and go next and add and define a component. So let's go and open up that step file. Okay, that's the one. And it opens up perfectly within Mastercam. And then you just go through the same procedure that I showed you at the beginning of the webinar. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much for everyone who attended. We see there aren't any more questions. We will be closing the webinar. Thank you. Have a great day further.
Thank you, everybody, from my side, and we'll see you soon in Mastercam training. Okay, have a great day. Bye-bye.